Well, hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for our webinar. So excited to have Ted from MakersHub here to chat with you all about AI-powered AP and how to streamline your workflows. I'm Amy Keenan of Insightful Accountant. I'm your host today. As you can see, we are recording this webinar and we will be sending out a recording email so you can have access to it. We also are offering CPE today. So if you do need CPE credits, make sure that you respond to all 3 polling questions that we have throughout the webinar. And then I will ask at the end, I'll have a poll asking if you do need CPE so we can get that certificate to you. It will probably take about a day or two, so give us a little bit of time, but you will get an email with your certificate in the next couple of days, as well as the recording email. If you do have any questions, feel free to put those in the Q&A section of Zoom. There's a little tab at the bottom that says Q&A, and we will get to those questions throughout the webinar today. Other than that, I think we are ready to go. So Ted, I'll let you take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Hello, everybody. It's pretty funny. We're sitting here talking and not knowing that the webinar has started. So thanks, Joan, for letting us know that that we have started. That was awesome. Just a quick little shout out here. If you have questions, please type them in the question and answer panel. I really enjoy answering questions live. So we're going to go through a pretty cool demonstration, not of MakersHub, but of AI and how we can use AI to streamline our workflow and how actually this new technology of computer vision over OCR and then large language models has really, it can really change the whole landscape of this whole OCR and AP process, because I know that it's quite a daunting process for a lot of you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce myself. So I'm Ted McRae. I'm the Director of Marketing and Growth over here at, or not growth, but just marketing. It used to be in my previous life, just a Director of Marketing for accountants over here at MakersHub. A little bit about my past. So I've been in this industry for roughly 3 decades, so about 30 years, believe it or not. I started my career at ADP. Then I worked my way over to Paychex. And then I started at this tiny little company you guys have probably heard of called Intuit. And I was a recycled Intuit employee. You know how that goes, for about 10 years, I guess. And then from Intuit, I went to a tiny little company. It was at the time called Xero. So I was employee number 15 at Xero US and helped them with their go-to-market for CPAs in the US marketplace. Then I went to Accounting Suite. Now I'm over here at MakersHub. And I left Accounting Suite to come to MakersHub just because of the incredible technology. So if you could find the question and answer panel, and just give me a shout out of if you can hear me, if you can see the screen now that says overview, first of all, and then maybe where you're from and just a howdy do. That way we can make sure that we keep this conversational and I know that you can hear me and all that stuff. So at least one person, like maybe Joan. See, Joan I told you, Joan, right when I said your name, you responded. So thank you. I have a feeling Joan's going to be our talkative one. Okay. So a little bit about what we're doing today. So we're going to go into introductions, which we just did, but I'm going to introduce, oh, thanks, Andrew. Hope all is well in Florida as well. I just left from Hector Garcia's Reframe. We're going to do a MakersHub overview. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about MakersHub and how we came into existence. But then we're going to talk about computer vision and artificial intelligence. We will also talk a little bit about like the manual grind of this whole pre-accounting and accounts payable, but why it's so important. I'm going to go in and do a demonstration. I feel it's a pretty cool demonstration. We'll know from you all if it is or not. And then I'd like to talk a little bit about how it's revolutionizing, and then some of the things that we've done that this webinar kind of highlights what we've done with MakersHub. We're not going to go into a demo, but we're going to show you exactly what we've done within this whole OCR computer vision data extraction to make the lives easier of businesses and CPAs. Then we'll talk about next steps and blah, 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 all that fun stuff. So let's introduce MakersHub. I hate to see my little my video going at the same time, but so MakersHub was founded about 2.5 years ago now, and it was co-founded by this guy right here, standing in front of these large vats, and this is Fong. Fong actually was the had a company that he ran that made these vats that he's standing in front of. So by trade, Fong is an engineer. He's a completely like a total smart guy. So he's the one who designed, believe it or not, built these vats. And what these vats were used for, if you've ever flown in an airplane, I never have this type of an airplane, I've flown in an airplane before, that has the windows that tint automatically. Or if you ever see a window in a car or even in a rear view mirror that actually tints automatically. Well, he's the one who created the technology that makes that tinting happen. And the vat, this particular one that he's standing in front of, makes that chemical or solution or whatever you want to call it. So here was the problem. These vats have like 10 to 20,000 parts per vat. And so when he would receive the bill from his vendors, these bills would have thousands and thousands of parts on them. And so keeping up with the new parts coming in, the new pricing for those parts, and trying to enter in 10,000 parts per bill, or thousands of parts per bill, was bogging down the AP department. And so in this whole chain of events of trying to create these vats and go out and price them for new customers, and then to see the cost of goods sold, or the cost of goods that went in to build these products, was almost impossible because they couldn't input the information quick enough for it to be like a viable, up-to-date information. So Fong set out to find an OCR product at first. This is how it all began, that could actually take all of this information from the bills, like this detailed information, and input it into QuickBooks desktop. They were using QuickBooks Enterprise at the time. So he tried all the legacy products like Bill.com and Tapalti and all these other ones. And what he soon found out, no matter what the technology looked like on the front end, they were all limited to what they used on the back end. And believe it or not, all of these companies, the one thing they have in common is they all use the same 4 outdated OCR technology that goes into extracting this detail. So there's like these 4 companies that do this, and these companies aren't just for bill extraction. They're for banks, so extracting information from checks and things of that nature. They're from doctors' offices for scanning companies or their patients' specific information about themselves, and then they're for scanning like documents like bills and stuff like that. So they're very limited and restrictive because they're made for this catch-all. So Fong decided to build his own product, which is called, we're going to go into polling question after that, but which is called WiseVision technology. And so what WiseVision technology does is it uses computer vision instead of like this old OCR. And it scans everything on a bill. And this is what we're going to show you today. It scans everything on a bill and then uses our own proprietary large language model, to determine what that information is in the bill. So the difference, and I'm going to talk about this a couple of times just to kind of pound it in a little bit, is that OCR, traditional legacy OCR technology, relies on, as it's scanning an invoice, to scan like the word invoice. It's looking for a specific word, invoice, or a specific like combination of a word that would determine invoice, and a specific word that says invoice number. It's not scanning the entire invoice and then using its model to determine what those things are. So that's really the difference. And so the method of doing this ensures that we capture everything that's on a bill. And so that's what we'll talk about today. But first, we're going to go into the first polling question. So we could launch that first polling question. And it's, what is your biggest challenge in managing accounts payable? Is it manual data entry, approval delays, invoice errors, lack of integration, or the high processing cost? And so a lot of reasons that people don't do AP as a product offering or a service offering for their clients is because a lot of this that's on here right now, and most of it is because it's not cost effective, because there's so many errors and so much time that goes into data. So whenever that poll is ready, we can close that out. Perfect. I think it's closed. So let's go to our next thing here, and let's just talk about everyone. AI is this whole exciting thing now. These large language models that power AI is the talk of the town. Well, really the AI, right? And like Chat GPT is the talk of the town. But really, realistically, what is behind the Chat GPT user interface is what actually powers it. And that is this large language model, or LLMs, if you want to call it that. And so what large language models are is it's almost computer learning, but they're learning from websites. They're learning from what individuals have typed into them. So it's really like a human brain taught by a human brain, or taught by what it knows from the internet. But what it does is large language models allows for large data input. Like if I were to write a whole paragraph into a large language model, or import a blog, for instance, and then I can tell it to summarize the blog for me and point out the key points and stuff like that. And so then what it does is it comes back and it gives us, in almost human language, an output that is understandable for us humans to read. So it's really, really cool how it does this. And that's what we're going to talk about in this next thing is actually how they work. How do large language models work? So you can kind of understand the difference between OCR, like we talked about before, just scanning for specific words, and then how a large language model and computer vision work together to actually understand what it's reading. And that's what we're talking about next here. Okay, so how large language models actually work. So large language models, like I said before, they're trained from extensive data sets. That's the very first key to this. They need to learn what it is that makes them knowledgeable, right? And so they learn these from books, from websites, from articles, and then from there are actually jobs, believe it or not, to just train large language models. So if you go out there, in fact, my daughter's boyfriend just got a job, $90,000, actually just entering in data into these large language models, which is just really, really crazy. So, but the key components of these are neural networks, and these are the backbone of the LMS, and they're designed to simulate, not stimulate, the human brain, like the learning process, like a human brain might, right? So they need to predict and generate text. And then when they actually generate the text, it's almost like it's a human talking to you, and it makes it so you can almost copy and paste and create a blog. You can create articles. You can do all this really cool stuff. But how does it actually do it? And that's where we really get into the tokenization. And we're going to talk about this on the next slide. And that's breaking down text to understand it, and then using that tokenization to understand what each thing means. So let's talk about that. And like I said, if you got questions while we're going on, while we're doing this, please let me know, okay? Because I'd love to, answer any questions that come up. And this is so we're going to take this in steps here. I want to explain to you what it is. So when I do the demonstration of how it actually works, it's going to make a lot more sense to you because then I'm going to point out the specific areas within. We're going to use Chat GPT today because it's just the most that I've found the most accurate and easy to use AI type product that's out there. So tokenization, it's the process of breaking down a sentence, paragraphs, and documents into little tokens, and so it breaks it down for meaning. And this example of the bill is due on July 30th. So just think of all the different ways that bills come in nowadays. It might not just say bill due date. It might say invoice due, or it might say the bill is due on July 30th. You just never know nowadays because vendors have such the ability to customize now how their bills look. This is what makes bills extremely hard now. So let's just take a look at this original sentence. The bill is due on July 30th. So here's what tokenization actually does. You see, it's broken down the sentence into individual words. So this is the tokenization of the sentence. But this is what it does in all instances: is it breaks down the paragraph, the sentences within the paragraph, and it puts them into little tokens. The bill is due on July 30th. And this is how it can understand when it puts the context back together. And this is what we're going to talk about in this next section. So the context example, we've broken everything out in tokens, right? Or I should say, the large language model has broken everything out into this context or into these tokens. Now what it does, based on the whole sentence and the meaning of each token, it puts them back together so it can contextually understand what you're trying to actually mean when you're writing like your prompt or whatever it is. And this is really important. I have a bunch of trainings that I do on crafting effective prompts and crafting effective prompts for accountants and things of that nature. The meaning behind what you're doing is vastly important, and what you want the outcome to be. So in contextual understanding of the tokens that we have, we're going to put the two pieces together, which is the bill, right? So it knows that those two go together, and it knows that there's an understanding and that the bill indicates a specific document that that it's already embedded in, or that we're uploading. So it knows that it's referring to an object, right? And the object in this case is the specific document, likely an invoice or a statement. The next thing it does is it says is due. So it puts those two tokens together and knows that suggests that there's a requirement or an obligation, often related to a payment, because we're talking about a bill, and in this context we're talking about a bill. And then the on July 30th obviously means, right, that it specifies a due date, a deadline of the bill. But it doesn't just know this because we've uploaded the bill. It knows this because of the understanding that's already been input into it at some point in the past. Somebody took the time to let it know that this is what these things actually mean. So let's talk about practical application where this actually makes a lot of sense. And so extracting key information from unstructured data, such as bills, invoices, and contracts, is what like computer vision does extremely well, because it doesn't just rely on trying to find specific items like a traditional OCR product does. It's going to scan the entire document and then use it, tokenize it, contextualize it, and it knows exactly what each thing is. So we're not relying on the accuracy of where it's trying to scan based on the predetermined outcome that it's trying to look for. It's scanning everything and then determining what this information is after it's scanned. So that's why accuracy in computer vision versus traditional legacy OCR is like tenfold, is because it's not looking for specific things. It's actually scanning everything first. What it also allows us to do now is scan handwriting, and allows us to take handwriting and convert that into text that a large language model can actually read as well, which is amazing, right? Because now we don't have to manually input handwritten bills and invoices and things of that nature, because now we can use a computer vision large language model to do this for us. So let's take this in practical application and do it, and show you exactly what we can do with these large language models. So I'm going to pull up our good old friend ChatGPT. If you haven't taken the time to learn ChatGPT, that's a whole different ball game. I can talk to anyone on here about doing a ChatGPT 101 type webinar, and go through that, or even a 202 or 201, whatever you want to call it. But this is ChatGPT. I'm going to hide my prompts over here for now, but this is where we interface with ChatGPT, right? I type in my question or my prompt, and it's going to give me a response. But what I want to do just really quickly is I'm going to go in and I'm going to pull up some sample invoices, so we can do something fun here with ChatGPT. So I'm just going to go into this one here, and I'm going to pull in this Belimo invoice, and I'm going to show it to you first because this invoice is really cool. So this has been cleaned up a bit, but it doesn't say invoice number. It just says number, right? We have the ship to, the customer PO. We have line items. But here's why this invoice is really, really cool. Or if you're actually a data entry person in an AP department, it's really, really bad. This invoice has an order value discount of 4%. The problem with the way that our vendor has created this invoice, in my opinion, is that this 4%, which equals 500 and some odd dollars, like $509, is not shown anywhere on this bill. So the extended price has nothing to do. It doesn't show the amount in the extended price, nor does it show the discount here. So you would think in a normal invoice, this is just me, I would like to see the total prior to the discount. Then you would think they would have something here that says discount amount of $509. Then you would think they would have the adjusted invoice price when it comes to, how much I'm paying. But nowhere on this whole invoice does it show that I got a discount, except for here, 4%. So if I'm a data entry person, I'm probably not going to even know that there's this discount that isn't even accounted for. So I might be putting in information that is not even like relevant to what I'm trying to do. So that's why we're going to use this one, because we're going to use ChatGPT to do a lot of things like that. But first, what I want to do is I want to show you the power of what ChatGPT can actually do. And I think what I'm first going to do is find my better example. So just give me a second here. And AI powered files. Okay. So I'm going to take this image of a butterfly. Okay. And I'm going to upload it into ChatGPT. And I'm going to say, can you please, and I always say please with ChatGPT, only because when artificial intelligence takes over, I want it to say that I was the nice guy, and maybe they won't like make me a slave. Can you please explain the details of this picture. So if you yeah, see, somebody says, I would like to see the amount of the discount. Exactly. When I'm inputting that, I'd love to see the amount of the discount. So look at this. Now, computer vision doesn't have eyeballs. It doesn't actually see this picture like we see it. Okay. What it actually does is it breaks it down into bits and zeros and ones, and it knows based on that what the picture is. I mean, how cool is that? It doesn't see the picture, but it breaks it down into bytes and knows what those, and then puts it all together in its computer brain and it figures out what it's in the picture. But look at how cool this is. The image shows a beautiful monarch butterfly. It knows that it's a butterfly. It knows that it's on a butterfly bush, which is really cool. And it tells us a lot about what's in this picture. Yeah, somebody says it can explain better than I do. And it would also say, if I ask, tell me about the background. Oh, look at the background is soft and it's vibrant scene. It would also say, sometimes it says that it's a blurred background. It's really cool. So let's do it in one other example of this Yosemite, because I think this is pretty cool. I'm just going to say, can you do the same with this? So this picture has Half Dome, right, for Yosemite. It's got tourists with hats and all different colors. Look at the image depicts a group of people gathered at the observation point of the stunning view of Half Dome. The sky above is bright clear with only a few clouds, suggesting a pleasant day, rugged peaks. And then I can look at what's really cool. What's in the left-hand corner of the sky? What's in the left-hand corner in the sky? It's going to tell me there's a puffy cloud in the sky, which unbelievable, right? It knows the image, there's a white cloud stands out against the otherwise clear blue background. So OCR can't do that. I mean, in actuality, MakersHub you can't take an image and do this either. My reason for doing this is to let you understand that there is no predetermined things that it's looking for. It looks at it, determines what it is, and then creates an output for you. So let's see what that actually looks like with this Belimo bill that has no invoice or anything like that. So I'm just going to drop this in. I could create a new chat, but I'm not going to. I'm going to say, can you please extract all the detail from this bill, including line item detail and SKU numbers. Okay, so now what it's going to do, it could care less right at this point right now what the data is. It's just doing what I told it to do. It's extracting every single point on this bill for me. In fact, so just give it a second here. It got kind of hung up. It should keep going. If not, if you've ever used ChatGPT and it freezes like this, and you'll know that it freezes because this prompt will stop, and it should go back to like the little play button. But right now it looks like it's frozen. So let's go back. I'm going to stop it. I'm just going to go back in here, and I'm going to send it again. So there it goes. I don't know why I did that. It's kind of crazy. Sometimes ChatGPT like gets a little hiccup. But so it's taking everything out. Look at all the line items, the sold to, the PO numbers, right? The project name, every single line item detail. And it's going to give me all the information of the total amount, the net term, the payment terms, everything. But again, we still wouldn't know if there's something wrong with this. But now I can go like this. I can say, please sum the line item totals totals and compare them to the invoice total. So now it's going to sum everything up for us. Because look, I didn't have to explain where the line items were. It already knows because it's tokenized everything and it's contextualized everything. I'm on a version of GPT that gives me feedback, that allows me to do feedback. So it's going to give me 2 responses, unfortunately. So it may take a tad longer. The sum of the line items, look at, is 12,742, which does not match. There's a discrepancy of approximately $509. Let me know if you would like to further investigate or need assistance. I prefer this response. So I'm going to say, why do you think there is this difference? So now it's going to go in and tell me why it thinks there's a discount. Look at the invoice mentions an order value discount of 4%, which could indicate a 4% discount applied to the certain line items of the invoice total, blah, blah, blah. So omitting other rounding, it's probably not rounding. I don't think we'd have a rounding issue for $509. So it's probably specifically because of this. I mean, I know it is, but that's probably what it is. So then what I can do, so now I know that this is the what it is, right? I know that it's extracted everything for me. I know that it's given me who it was sold to, the line item details. Look at it, even has the SKU numbers. It knows where the item numbers and the tagging charge and all of this really cool stuff. It's not relying on what is pre-programmed like a legacy OCR product. But let's take it a step further. And so we have that. And I'm going to say now, can you export this into Excel and create 2 different sheets? One sheet that will have the vendor detail, and another sheet that details the invoice. Okay, so now what it's going to do is it's going to create it for me. It's going to export. But how cool would it be if I could now just create what they call a GPT that does this for me automatically, right? So now I could actually create a GPT that is pre-programmed to do all of this for me. So everything that I've just taken all this time to do, I could create a GPT that I could just upload 20 invoices or bills at the same time, and it would do exactly what I've done. I could say, determine why there's a difference. I can say all of that stuff. And let's open up this Excel file now and see, this is just for the Belimo invoice, but I can do it for just anything. And let's just go in now and see what it's done for us. So look at, I'm just going to enable editing. It's created the details for the vendor. So I have all the stuff, the customer PO, the project name. And then if I go into the invoice details, look at this. It's got the item numbers. So I can do this and I can use it as a running database of every single one that I've done, as well as I can do so many different things with this now. Use it for pivot tables, for all sorts of stuff like that, or even have it export in a specific file format for importing and all of this really cool stuff. So now if we take it back to, so I have my vendor details. Now I could do this, like I said, I would have all the vendors here and it would have the invoice number. and then I could set it up so this would even have the invoice number, right? So I know, so I can use it to cross-reference with all sorts of tables and fun things like that. But this is really the ability of something like a chat GPT to do a lot of this stuff for you. In fact, I've already created my accounts payable GPT. So let's go into that. So this is my accounts payable GPT. And all I did is if you go into here and hit explore GPTs, I can hit create a new GPT. And I'm like, what? And it asks me, what do you want this GPT to do? And I can go in and explain exactly what we did in detail and then save it as like I've done here as my accounts payable GPT. So then what I can do now is I can take, let's just take the Belimo, the glass and mirror, and Rushco. And I'm going to just upload all of these at the same time. Okay. And I'm going to click the upload button. So what this is going to do now is do exactly what we did for the one invoice. It's going to do them for all 4 invoices. And it's going to contextualize everything, break it down, give me the line item details for every single invoice that's in there, and allow me to then export it into whatever I want, into Excel, into MySQL, if you are a nerd like me. So I can actually have it create the SQL prompt to enter this in. So then I've had it say, there are no discrepancies between the line item totals and the amounts, blah, blah, blah. Would you like to do something? Would you like to export the most recent data? And I can say, yes, please create the code to export or to import into an SQL database. And so now, I mean, I would do it into Excel. If you think about Excel, guys, Excel is just a database that's easy for you all to use. And each sheet has columns, which are fields, and each sheet is actually a table. The database is the actual Excel file name. So that's really what we're doing here is look at, we've actually created something that would take an engineer, a computer engineer to do, is creating these tables and all this stuff. You no longer even need to know about SQL prompts in order to create an SQL database. You could give this to a programmer and say, I've already created it. This is what it looks like. Create this database for me. Or you could even have ChatGPT create this table for you. Look at, I mean, it's doing everything. So this is how easy. So it's scanned everything for me, all the details, everything of the invoices that I've put in. And I didn't have to tell it to do anything. Just one time I created the GPT and it's done all this for me. So now we've done that. So let's get back into our second polling question. And then I'm going to talk about like the so now what, right? So it's how familiar are you with AI-powered solutions for automating financial workflows? And we're already using it somewhat. I've heard about it, but I haven't explored and not familiar at all. This may be going way above and beyond, but there's a specific purpose for this. And I'm gonna talk to you about it right now. As soon as we close the poll out, which is right now, I am going to go. So now what? Right? I don't want to have to do that every single time. I'm not a Chat GPT pro, but it's pretty cool, right? Because you can get 100% accuracy, just about 95% accuracy on what you're trying to do. So let's talk about pre-accounting. The old way of doing it with the either manually, which is completely old, or using a legacy OCR product is just not efficient. For one reason, data entry itself is time consuming and prone to errors. And if we use a traditional legacy OCR product, there's still a lot of manual data that we have to do and corrections and changing. And there's still a high potential for errors, even with using a traditional legacy OCR product. And then it creates these bottlenecks, exactly like I was talking about with Fong and his experience, right? This bottleneck of I have to enter all this information, but the sales guys need it, the finance guys need it, everyone needs it, and they're waiting for me to enter it. There is no value in the actual action of doing data entry. The physical activity of data entry contains no value. Okay, there's value in the what that data actually provides us, right? So we can do our reporting and all of our pre-accounting really cool stuff. The data has power. The act of data entry has no value whatsoever. So keep that in mind when we talk about this now. So what is the role of computer vision in this whole data extraction? So data extraction and computer vision now allows this an automated pre-accounting, right? So you can get that detail that you want in an instant within seconds, instead of like data entry nightmare. It reduces the errors to, if you have a system that learns like a chat GPT can learn, it reduces the errors from very significant to almost nothing. And it helps speed up these decision making processes, like with workflows and all this other stuff. So it's very, very simple now for making decisions, because we have the data to make these decisions, especially that these client advisory services firms need. If you're doing more than just like regular accounting, and you're doing stuff with the data that's inside these bills, it's very, very powerful. So let's talk about now how MakersHub is doing this. Okay, and so this is all leading up to OCR, traditional, legacy, however you want to call it, is extremely outdated. And this is how, what I've shown you, this is how these tools should work. And in fact, this is how MakersHub works. So we use our WiseVision technology, which is basically scanning the entire invoice. And then after the invoice is scanned, so it's precise scanning of these documents, because it doesn't care what it's scanning. It just scans everything. It then, like we talked about before, puts it in little tokens and then contextualizes it and knows exactly what it is. So we scan everything, and then we allow our large language models to determine what that is and where it should go within the context of it being a bill, right? And if we don't understand through our large language model what it is, then we go out to another large language model that's there for companies like a MakersHub. It's not like a Chat GPT, but another large language model that allows us to ask it, hey, with our programming, we can't determine what it is. Can you? And then it trains our system what it is. The next thing that we do, especially in that instance where we have that 4% discount, right, on that Belimo invoice, we allow the user to train the system as well. So large language model goes in, the invoice, it extracts everything, but it doesn't know what to do with that difference because it hasn't learned yet what that is. So then we allow our users to go in and say, hey, MakersHub, that $509, that's the difference between the line item and the invoice total, is actually a discount. From now on, whenever Belimo comes in and it has a difference in the line item totals and the bill totals, automatically code that as a discount on the actual bill that I'm going to be entering in. So I've trained the system now that is that's where it should be. So that's the difference. It's extracting data and then determining what it is, not trying to determine while we're extracting, using large language models to put it all together, and then allowing the user to tell us if we got it wrong or if we got it right, letting the user tell us, you got it right, but I don't want to use that field. I want to use the project name instead of PO number. So this is where computer vision and these large language models can really help you become so efficient with what you're doing. Now, what is the benefit of being able to train a system instead of the employee? When an employee leaves, there's no transfer of knowledge as far as what we need to do for each client. We've transferred the knowledge into the AP system. So all we need to do is train a new employee on the AP system, and there's the knowledge transfer is just in training them on the new system, because the system's already learned what it needs to do. So in regards to downtime, if an employee leaves us, and let's be honest, employees tend to leave us every once in a while, there is no transfer of knowledge from the old employee to the new employee. Like, oh, when that Belimo invoice comes in, make sure that you get that 4% discount, because it's never in there. We have to do it every single time. There's no knowledge transfer. So let's talk about, we've talked some of the shortcomings, but so in my opinion, the shortcomings are this completely outdated OCR technology that we talked about at the beginning of this webinar, is that they're all using that same 4 OCR technology that only scans a handful of fields, and it doesn't do it right probably 70% of the time. Bill complexity, as we stated before, me and the mouse in my pocket, bills have become completely complex, with the ability to customize. As computer accounting billing systems get more technologically advanced, the complexity of bills that get sent to us get more and more advanced, because people want to make them their own, and they have their own culture inside that bill. And so the other thing is, because of all the things that precede here, the outdated technology and the complexity of bills, it's made them very inflexible and rigid, right? The system can break very easy if your client actually changes the bill in these old outdated systems. It can break the technology that you're using to scan the bill. So I always say, why haven't these legacy AP platforms evolved? There's a lot of reasons why. One of them is what we just suggested in the previous slide. The other is, could you imagine having a company that's been around 15, 20 years using this technology, how hard it would actually be to change your business model to something different? The money that it would cost to do this, when in fact, a lot of these companies, they only really truly care about the end game, which is getting you to pay your bills. The pre-accounting is with the data extraction is just to get you quicker to pay your bills, because that's where the money is made in this industry. Taking the money from you, holding on to it, paying the bills. So it just hasn't been a priority. And then the second thing is, bills are extremely hard, like we talked about. They're ever changing and always different. So like this one right here, some are completely long. We have an instance where one of our clients gave us a 68-page Home Depot bill with 63 bills inside of it. It's at one file, 68 pages in the file, but 63 bills and over 3,000 line items that need to be entered. So they're extremely long. Some are extremely hard, like this Belimo one that we already talked about, right? So it's got everything truncated in here. It's got the units and the quantity all within one little area. It's got this weird order value discount that's not listed anywhere else. And then some are just like this. Your client sends you 8 different bills in one file, and the ability to extract and tell where one ends and one begins is totally crazy. So that is why uh, the the OCR, traditional OCR type products haven't evolved. Bills are like snowflakes. Every single one is different, and it's hard to extract details from every single one of them. We've been able to do it at MakersHub. We can do all of the things. And so here's our third polling question is, would you like to learn more about MakersHub? And what that really is just me going over it in detail in a non-threatening, non-sales. I'm not going to like kill you guys with 1,000 calls. It's going to be, hey, one-on-one with Ted. We're going to explain in detail what it can do, show you the product and how awesome it actually is. And so the next step, once we have the polling question gone, is would you like to learn more about MakersHub? If you do, you can get your phone out now and you can QR code it here. So this will allow you to go there, or you can just go to makershub.ai and then try it out there. Or you can reach me. Let's see if I have my reach me on the next screen once we go through this. But you can reach me at tmcrae@makershub.ai. And like I said, we're not going to kill you with sales calls and all that stuff. If it's something you want to do, that's great. If you don't, that's fine as well. We'd love to at least show it to you. I think we're right at about time. I hope I didn't bore everyone to tears with my presenting here, but I know your guys' time is valuable. I really appreciate you spending it here with me, and we'll just go from there.
That was great. I mean, I learned a lot from using ChatGPT from you today. So I'm
Yeah.
just going to launch the CPE poll question. So if anybody needs CPE, please let me know. So that way we can get those certificates to you. Thank you so much. And yeah, if you have any questions, put them in the Q&A right now so we can answer them for you.
Is the recording going to be shared? I'm not sure.
Yes, we will. I will send out an email with the recording.
Awesome.
And we will get the CPE.
Corrine, what did you think? Did you enjoy it, Corrine? Let's see if Corine will love
Loved it.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I do one called Promptopia, crafting effective prompts for accountants.
That's great.
And I normally get like 300 people on that one because it's such a
I think we might need to do one here on Insightful Accountant with
yeah,
you.
people absolutely love it. And it's like that one's like a 101 because I really just go into I'm a prompt certified, so I go into like how to craft the perfect prompt because so many people are like afraid of going in and just doing it. Cool. All right. I think we're good, right?
Well, thank you. Yeah, I think this is great. Thank you so much, Ted, for presenting today. And I learned a lot. I'm hoping all of our audience did as well. And like I said, we'll send out the recording email and get you those CPE certificates. So thank you, Ted, for joining me today.
You're
And
welcome.
thank you,
Have a
everyone.
wonderful day.
Yeah, have a great day, everyone.